Dr. Midnight. Is it Midnight or Moon Knight? Dr. Moon Knight? Something like that. Anyway, it's your boy I with some Marvel TV, and we're going over Dr. Moon Knight. I almost called it Moonlight. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I wasn't gonna review this. I saw the trailer and I was just like, eh. Oh, and I'm back from vacation. You know, it's nice to be back. And you know, when I was on vacation, you know, I thought I was going to have a little break from the TV reviews, but not only did they drop Mr. Midnight or Mr. Moon Knight, but we also got 3 episodes of that Young Justice. Young Justice is back, baby. And, you know, I was waiting for that Young Justice. But anyway, we're talking about Marvel now. We're doing Marvel, and we're doing Dr. Midnight. So let us review the show that takes place in the UK. And that threw me off. Everybody's British, and it's all about tea and crumpets and bloody hell and all that. But, you know, so the series starts, and the episode's called The Problem with the Goldfish. The series starts, and here we go with the jokes. There's this man named Steve. And someone in the chat, for the love of God, anybody that watches this review, that subscribes to my YouTube channel, if you watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., please tell me whether or not the guy who plays Dr. Moon Knight, the guy that plays Steven, please tell me that Senor Bocce from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who, you know, Bocce, who was just like, oh, your compliance will be rewarded. It's only reward for that you comply. Because when I saw him, I was like, yo, that's Bocce. And if that is Bocce, and that ends up being Bocce, then Marvel needs to clean up their multiverse, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is canon to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and yeah, I can't be recycling actors thinking we don't recognize these people because Bocce died in an explosion or something. But anyway, so if it's Bocce, let me know. So this guy named Steven, he's a loser. And he works at a museum at the concession stand. Like he works in the convenience store or whatever. But he's also, despite the fact that he works in the convenience store, he's very in tune with like ancient Egyptian archaeology or whatever. But he has a problem because he's apparently schizophrenic, or he suffers from the Two-Face disease, or this is the thing. This wasn't an origin story per se. Like, we don't get to find out how he became Dr. Moon Knight. When the show starts, he's already Dr. Moon Knight. He already has the spirit of the Moon Knight, you know, like within him. But it's unclear whether he's always had a split personality, and then once he, you know, took on the Dr. Moon Knight persona, he then thought he was, you know, like, it's almost like, was he always schizophrenic? Or does he think he's schizophrenic now because he has the other entity that resides within him talking to him? He's taken it as he is schizophrenic. So because he feels like he does have a dual personality, he starts doing things like handcuffing himself to the bed, you know, because he thinks he's sleepwalking. He thinks like at night he wakes up and he goes sleepwalking, or there's like or he has like a split personality. So he handcuffs himself to the bed, but then when he wakes up the next day or days, he's no longer handcuffed to the bed. And he even had a fish, because the whole thing with the goldfish in the title, there was a fish that he had that only had one fin. And he had blacked out. He woke up, back in his bed, and then when he saw the fish, he noticed the fish had two fins. So things are kind of weird. He was supposed to go out on a date with this girl, and he and the girl had decided, had made plans to go out on a date on Thursday. So he basically blacks out. And then when he wakes up again, he gets up, he gets dressed, and he goes out on the date. While he's at the restaurant waiting for the girl doesn't show up, and then he calls the girl, and then he's just like, oh, where are you? He was like, I'm here waiting for our date. And then she was like, oh, you think you're bloody funny? She was like, the date was 3 days ago. And then he was just like, no, today's Thursday. Then she was like, it's bloody Sunday, you fool. And then she was just like, lose my number. And then she hung up the phone. And like, British people are awesome, because after she basically, like, cursed him out in the most British, proper way possible, she basically was like, lose my number, and then still have the nerve to be like, cheers. And I thought that was hilarious. So, but then that's when he realized, when he realized it was Sunday, he was just like, holy he was like, what do you mean it's Sunday? He was like, I just lost 4 days. So he's losing time. Like, he's fallen in and out of sleep. And then he had another moment where he went to bed, and then when he woke up, he was in the middle of a grass field. And then when he was in the middle of the grass field, he was just like, what the hell happened? And then that's when he started hearing the voices. He heard a voice saying, like, oh, dear God, the idiot's in charge. And I kind of paused for a second, because I understand he has another entity that resides within him. Like, let's just be real honest. Dr. Moon Knight is basically Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there are other entities, like 7 or 8 entities that each have, like, like these scarabs, and they stole that from the Blue Beetle, the scarab thing. They try to come out with Moon Knight before Blue Beetle come out, but they there are different entities that have like these different scarabs, these different items, if you will, these millennium items, if you will, and each item has a spirit that that resides within it, and that spirit can take over a human host if that human host has possession of the item. Basically, this is Yu-Gi-Oh. Steven, he had a scarab, he had one of the items, but I guess like when he goes to sleep, then that's when the spirit that resides within his pendant, his scarab, ends up taking over and goes out and does whatever the hell he does. But the Stephen wasn't in control. Stephen was unaware. He wasn't aware of everything that was happening to him. He just thought like he was just like sleepwalking or whatever. But then the voice of the other entity started talking to him. What was unclear to me, the way they were having the conversation, it wasn't like it was just the spirit of the scarab talking to him. The spirit was having a conversation as though the spirit and other spirits were looking at him and what he was doing. So I'm like, do multiple people see what he's doing? Because he was just like, oh, the idiot's in charge. But I'm like, but you're not saying that to Steven. It sounds like you're saying that to someone else. And that was kind of weird and that threw me off. But, he was just talking to him the whole time. And then he was just like, oh, you must let me take control. Because I guess he has to like let his guard down in order for the spirit to take over. But he went down to like this, this place, like, this town or whatever. And then he saw this one guy. He had killed a woman, and he was talking about like doing some stuff, for the scarabs and everything for the ultimate power. He ended up seeing Steven. Him and Steven got into a confrontation, and he told Steven, the guy told Steven, he was like, yo, I want your scarab. He was like, I want your item. And then, Steven's whole thing was, he was like, I don't even know how I got this shit. He was like, bro, you can have it. He tried to give it to him, but then the Dr. Moon Knight spirit wouldn't allow Steven to give his scarab to the guy. And so the guy thought he was just playing. He was playing games. And then, like he tried to sing his goons on him. And then when the guy and his goons was about to beat up Steven, then that's when the Dr. Moon Knight spirit took over. He whooped everybody's ass. And then when Steven woke up, everybody was knocked out and bloodied. He didn't know what happened. And then he just dipped. So he's losing his shit now because he doesn't understand what's happening, and he legitimately thinks he's going crazy. He was looking up books and reading articles on schizophrenia and things of that nature, but he legitimately thinks he's crazy. He blacks out for the final time, and then when he blacks out for the final time, he wakes up on a bus, and he gets to like this museum or whatever. When he goes into the museum, the same guy from the town that tried to take the pendant from him, he showed up at the museum. And then the guy was just like, oh, I can feel the power within you. He's like, I can feel the aura and the presence within you. And then he showed Steven his wrist, and that guy has an item on his wrist as well. Like, I was about to say a millennium item. He has a pendant or a totem or a scarab, whatever y'all want to call it. He has one as well, only his was a tattoo on his arm. And then when he showed it to him, but he told Steven, he was like, I want yours. I want you to give me yours. And then that's when Steven ran from the guy. When Steven ran from the guy summoned like all these monsters to come out of the woodwork, I guess because the museum that they were in, because he showed them different tablets of the different beings that used to inhabit these scarabs. They had like pictures of those beings all over the place, and he was just like, oh, the person that used to own your tablet is right here on this stone wall, whatever. So the demons came out of nowhere. I don't know where these demons came from, but they started like chasing him, and then Steven ran in the bathroom, and then for the first time, instead of hearing voices talk to him, instead of hearing a voice call him an idiot and say like, oh, he's a buffoon and he's a moron and blah, 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 for the first time he actually got to see the other entity, because the other entity looked at him through the mirror, and it was like an evil, like a more like serious, tougher version of him. It looked exactly like him. And then he was just like, listen, we're about to die, but in order for us to live, you need to let me take over. He said, you need to concede, you need to give me the power, and you need to let me take over the vessel so I can save our ass. And then that's when he got to the point where he just embraced it, and then he let this, Yu-Gi-Oh style, he let the spirit take over. All like if he would have been like Dr. Midnight, I would have died. And then he let Dr. Midnight take over, and then that's when you saw Dr. Midnight take over the body. He had the costume on for some reason. I don't know how he got dressed that quickly, but then once we saw Dr. Moon Knight with the costume on, then that's when he went to go whoop all those aliens, all those monsters' asses, and that's how the episode ended. So at least we got to see Dr. Moon Knight, before the episode ended. But like I said, this wasn't an origin story. This was basically because the guy already had the spirit within him. So I mean, I guess unless I missed something, there'll be an episode or a story where they explain how he even got the scarab to begin with, and why it's like in his possession and why he was even chosen. And then we get to find out what his plot is, and then, like what all this, obviously Ethan Hawke is the villain, but we'll get to see where all this goes. So, I mean, it wasn't bad, it definitely wasn't bad. I'm glad that, they didn't give us, The only reason why I'm even reviewing this is because it's only 6 episodes, and I'm just like, for 6 episodes, I can hopefully like enjoy like a nice little quick, like Marvel series, and maybe I'll learn a little bit more about this character, because the first time I ever heard or saw about this character was on the Avengers Assemble cartoon when they was all trapped in the desert and he was guarding like a pyramid or something like that with one of Tony's weapons. So like I said, we'll see. We'll definitely see. Like I said, if that's Senor Bachi, please let me know. Thank you for tuning in as always. Hit me up on Twitter and Instagram. Share your thoughts on YouTube. What did you think of the first episode of Dr. Moon Knight? Are you interested? Do you think it's cool? Do you not think it's cool? Are you going to continue? Like I said, for 6 episodes, hell, I'll take a crack at it, and we'll ride that wave all the way to the end. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So until the moon rises again for episode 2, see you next time, and I'm out this bitch.